Patreon. So for this month's exclusive video, I wanted to share some of my favorite art books. I did a video like this over on YouTube, but it was more focused on like graphic design and creative entrepreneurship and business and things like that. So for this video, for you guys, I just wanted to share some of my inspiring, creative kind of textbooks and reading books and things like that. I've basically kind of like categorized this in 3 different sections. One is design related, the other one is like art and illustration, and then the last one, and there's only one book in it, it's surface pattern design. So these are all kind of relate back to the kind of work that I do either for freelance work or that I do for like my Etsy shop and my creative market shop and things like that. And then some also relate to some things that I'm trying to like get going, that I'm in the works of, specifically like the kids book stuff. But yeah, so let's get started. So when we're talking about design books, this is something that I teach about. This is something that I work in terms of freelance. So I'm always looking for like inspiring books that can help me elevate either my design skills or that I can utilize to help my students up theirs. The first one being color harmony. There's tons of resources online nowadays that you can go to access, like coolers.com or downloading the Coolers app or just visiting like colorlovers.com, which I don't even know if it's still alive as a website. But before all of that, you have to find books. Like I have Pantone swatches and things like that, but you also have to like look for books with color stories. So Color Harmony, the Complete Color Harmony, was one of the books that I got like many years ago when I was doing freelance work to kind of help guide me with color stories and like how to pull and create your own color stories from imagery and things like that. This book was a fantastic resource for many years. It's something that I still go to. It tells you like the RGB codes and things like that, and it's just a great resource. So definitely, if you are a color lover like I am, definitely check this book out. It's older. I'm sure there's a more updated version, or you can use websites like the apps that I mentioned. The next one is Design School Confidential. I love this book because of the teacher in me. Basically, Design Book Confidential walks you through some top design school like final projects from all over the world. It's just a fantastic resource for me as a teacher to find interesting creative projects relating to courses that I teach, whether it be at the university or through my online courses like Skillshare. So this is from all over the world. Like this is from the University of New South Wales, College of Fine Arts. This is from the University of Arts at Philadelphia. And it's just some of the top students in their work, and then an outline in terms of like the project brief, the project goal, and the project outcome that I think was really informative and interesting because you get to see students' perspective, and I think that's really important. Yes, I'm a teacher, but I also learn from my students as well. So this is definitely a great resource, and it's just a great place to find inspiration. Now I want to jump into some of my art books. So I mentioned this book before in my YouTube video, but I want to mention it again because it's just a great resource for basically creating an everyday sketching habit, which I've been terrible at, but I'm slowly trying to do something, whether it's on my iPad or on actual paper every day. And I just like the fact that he offers like this nice, simple 5-step kind of program. And the biggest thing that the author iterates, Stephen B. Reddy, is that things don't have to be perfect, and that you can, make mistakes, just get pen to paper, or in my case, Apple Pen to iPad, just to sketch and play and enjoy. He looks at an image and then he pulls it down to the bare bones in terms of shapes. Then he actually like details it out. And I think that's the hardest part with a lot of artists and illustrators and people who are creative. You really want us, we tend to start focusing on the details, and we have to really understand shape and composition. Like, I'm a graphic designer too, so I know that. I understand looking at, the minimum in terms of shape and composition and then going for the details. But sometimes when I'm drawing, it's like I want to get everything perfect the first go around, and that's not always going to be the case. So this is a good text a good like reference book that just kind of gets you inspired for everyday sketching. The next one I want to share is just like I've been working on trying to develop some skills. I've been taking some classes over on Skillshare, and I'm trying to practice like not just people and human forms, but also backgrounds, which is something that I have a lot of trouble. I tend to like draw something and it's just that one thing, and it doesn't live in an environment. And if I want to work on this children's book idea and create this environment, I have to work on backgrounds and not just the characters. So I love this book. It's beautiful scenes from a fantasy world, and it's background illustrations and scenes from anime and manga works. Yes, I'm a nerd. I love all kinds of art, not just fine art. I like manga art, and some could argue that it is also fine art, because look, this stuff is gorgeous. I'll share some more like close-up shots, but these are just epic, beautifully done, really interesting, phantasmical worlds that don't necessarily exist in real life, but in the creators' imaginations. And like I wanna be at this level one day where I can just like sit down and I'm gonna come up with a little world and draw it. Right now I can just like draw things that I see. So like I want to add imagination. And this book does a beautiful job of just pulling inspiration for me to be able to do that and to understand the composition work and things like that. So definitely check it out. Now, the next one is called Children's Picture Books, The Art of Visual Storytelling. It's by Martin Salisbury and Morag Stiles. And it's basically, it's just a really beautifully produced book that gives great insight to the art of creating and designing your own picture books. I just love that they showcase different artists from different periods of time and highlight what makes this book so successful, and also it explores different themes and ideas that you should look at when exploring concepting out a kid's picture book. So the idea of like visual text and educational development and things like that. So this is more of a reference book for me that I pull inspiration and that I'm slowly trying to learn from. But it's just, again, I'm really interested in pursuing this idea of creating a children's book, and I just need to, I have part of the story plot. I've got like a bunch of the text written. I just got to finish it, flesh it out, and then I want to create the characters around it, I think. And then the last one comes into my surface pattern design work. Aside from my children's book goals, I really want to look into exploring art licensing. So I sell my own products. I use my artwork and my surface pattern design work and things like that to create my own products. And then I get them manufactured overseas, and then I sell them on Etsy. But I'm really interested in pursuing licensing as well. So I find that my surface pattern design work is probably the thing that is the most licensable and that I'm okay with releasing rights to, whereas things like my characters and sketches and illustrations and things like that, I want to keep that for myself to sell through my Etsy and develop my own brand from that. But surface pattern design is something that I've always been interested in and I've always been passionate about. I have my own spoon flower shop. I designed fabrics in the past and I've made clothes out of them, and then what I found was that the fabric itself ended up selling better than the clothes, so I focused on just selling the fabric. And I like the idea of continuing to do that, but without having to put so much of the upfront cost, and that's where this idea of licensing comes into play. So I just wanted to freshen up on my surface pattern design skills from the things that I learned when I was in college for fashion, and just look at the techniques. This book and a few others are some of my reference resources. So Mastering the Art of Fabric Printing and Design. This looks at basically like techniques. It looks at techniques, tutorials, and inspiration. And they utilize both like handwork, where you're creating your repeat by hand and creating patterns by hand, and also digital work. They work mostly in Photoshop, but I've been able to learn and apply those same concepts using the Affinity products like Affinity Photo and Affinity Designer. But it's been a great resource for stuff like that. And I find this is just another outlet, another area of revenue that I could potentially build up with my art, and basically turning my art into my full-time career. What I like the most about this book though is that they interview actual full-time fabric surface pattern designers who work in the field. And yeah, so those are the books that I wanted to share with you all today. I hope you find them inspirational, and I will see you in the Q&A later this month. Thanks again for your support. Bye.